My name is Hans Müller, 22 years old, mechanic from a small town in Germany, and a proud soldier of the Afrika Korps. At least that is who I thought I was, until the day we lost everything in the North African desert. Our officers told us we were only regrouping, but the maps, the trucks burning on the horizon, and the endless columns of prisoners said something different. We had not withdrawn. We had surrendered. They lined us up in the dust, thousands of us, sunburned, exhausted, starving. For 3 years, we had been fed the same story, that the Allies were weak, divided, and on the edge of collapse. As I raised my hands, I still believed that when they marched us to the port and loaded us onto an American ship, we expected cattle holds and chains. Instead, we walked up the gangway of a Liberty ship, built so quickly and cleanly it looked almost new. We did not know it yet, but even this ship was part of the lesson to come. 2 weeks later, we reached the American coast. Through the portholes, I saw harbors stretching farther than my eyes could follow. Cranes, docks, ships everywhere, moving in calm mechanical rhythm. It looked less like a port and more like an entire steel city built just to feed the war. 2 weeks later, we reached the American coast. Through the portholes, I saw harbors stretching farther than my eyes could follow. Cranes, docks, ships everywhere, moving in calm, mechanical rhythm. It looked less like a port and more like an entire steel city built just to feed the war. We had crossed the country in American passenger trains, not in freight cars. As we stepped down from the coaches onto Texas soil, I still could not believe the soft seats and curtains we had just left behind. As night fell, I pressed my face to the glass. Outside, every town we passed blazed with light. Street lamps, shop signs, houses lit in several rooms at once. In Germany, blackout regulations had plunged us into darkness. Here, in wartime, the night looked like peacetime. Factories roared at midnight, their windows glowing as if the sun had moved inside. Parking lots were full of cars, even at those hours, as if the entire country refused to sleep until the war was won. I remembered our own factories, crippled by shortages and bombing, and felt something tighten in my chest. One of the guards noticed me staring. "Just workers' cars," he said casually. "Everybody drives here." In Germany, even many officers dreamed of owning a car someday. Here, dock workers parked them in rows like tools left out for the night. At a small station, we stopped for water and coal. Railway workers in worn overalls drank Coca-Cola from cold glass bottles, smoked freely, and threw half-finished cigarettes into the dirt without a second thought. The waste alone looked like luxury to us. That night I wrote, "We passed more electric lights in 1 hour than my village has seen in its entire history. If this is poverty, then our propaganda has lied to us about everything." Days later, the view changed from factories to fields. I saw farms larger than the county where I grew up, worked not by horses and sweat, but by machines, tractors pulling plows wider than our streets. One farmer's son drove a tractor worth more than my father would earn in a lifetime. Grain silos stood like concrete cathedrals along the rail lines. I watched endless streams of grain pour into them, more wheat in a single storage yard than my entire province harvested in a year. They treated food the way we treated ammunition, measured by tons, not by crumbs. In Kansas City, we rolled past a stockyard filled with cattle. The smell of meat hung in the air, thick and heavy, while American workers ate beef sandwiches during their break as if it were nothing. We counted cows and tried not to think of our own rations of thin soup and 200 grams of meat on a lucky week. Our destination was a camp in Texas, built from wooden barracks arranged in neat rows, surrounded by wire, but not by hatred. It had guard towers, yes, but also electric lights, running water, and more space than many German workers' housing blocks. In the kitchen, German prisoners assigned to cooking gasped at the equipment. Walk-in refrigerators, industrial mixers, gas ranges big enough to feed a small town. There was no sense of scarcity here, only procedures and schedules. Our first meal in the camp did more damage to Nazi ideology than any Allied bomb ever could. White bread, real coffee, meat twice a day, milk so fresh it still tasted of the farm. Some men refused to eat at first, convinced it was a trick for a propaganda photograph. The camp hospital looked like something from another world. X-ray machines hummed quietly. Cabinets overflowed with medicines we had only heard rumors about, and American doctors treated our wounds without anger in their eyes. They even used their newest drugs on us, on the enemy. I wrote in my diary, hand shaking slightly. Today, I saw equipment our own doctors begged for and never received. We, the defeated, are being treated better than many civilians in Germany. Soon, we were sent out to work on American farms. We rode in trucks through a countryside that seemed endless. Fields of corn, wheat, cotton, all tended by machines. The farmers spoke to us not like monsters, but like tired men who needed help bringing in a harvest. One afternoon, the farmer's son, maybe 16 years old, let me stand next to him as he drove a tractor across the field. He joked that it was not even a particularly good model, that his father hoped to buy a better one next year. We had spent our lives told that only conquest could bring prosperity. This boy believed prosperity was normal. On the way back to camp one evening, our truck passed a factory so large it seemed to swallow the horizon. Through open doors, I saw aircraft in various stages of construction, rows of bombers being assembled like toys on a conveyor belt. An American guard mentioned casually that this single plant produced a bomber every hour. Inside, women in overalls welded and riveted, moving with the same calm confidence as any soldier. We had been told that democracies were weak because they let women and minorities work beside men. Yet here, the machines never stopped, and every day more weapons rolled out than our factories could hope to match. In the camp library, I found American newspapers filled with numbers I would have once dismissed as lies. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands of aircraft, production measured in millions of tons. Now, after what I had seen with my own eyes, the numbers no longer looked like propaganda. They looked like simple bookkeeping. Christmas 1943 arrived cold and clear. We expected nothing, perhaps an extra slice of bread if fortune was kind. Instead, trucks brought packages from American churches and families. Cigarettes, candy, warm socks, small games. That evening, a church choir came to the camp and sang carols in German. Our language, from the mouths of our enemies' wives and daughters, floated through the barbed wire as if it had never belonged to war at all. Some of the toughest men I knew wiped their eyes in the shadows. My diary entry that night was short. They know we have been trying to kill their sons, yet they send us gifts and sing our songs. Whatever this is, it is stronger than fear, and stronger than the lies we were raised on. For months I had been afraid to write truthfully to my family. Now I finally dared to describe a little of what I had seen. The lights, the factories, the food, the strange kindness. I told my wife that our future, if we had one, could not be built on the old promises anymore. The Americans offered classes, English, history, even economics. Some prisoners laughed at first, but the classrooms filled quickly. Men who once worshipped slogans now argued about constitutions, free elections, and how a country could be strong without crushing its own people. When news of the invasion of France reached us, it no longer surprised me. We saw newsreels showing endless lines of ships, aircraft, and vehicles pouring onto the beaches. For the first time, I did not ask, "Can they really do this?" I asked, "How did we ever think we could win against this?" By 1945, the barracks began to empty. Names were called, trunks were packed, and men who had arrived as fanatics left as something else. Confused, humbled, but strangely hopeful. The camp that had once felt like the end of the world now felt like a school we were graduating from. On the ship back to Europe, I stood at the railing and watched the American coastline fade into the mist. 3 years earlier, I had come to destroy this country in the name of an empire. Now I was leaving as an unwilling witness that everything I had believed about strength and greatness had been wrong. People would later ask what changed us. The lectures, the newspapers, the camp programs, all of that mattered, yes, but it was not the main thing. What changed us was simply seeing a society so rich it could show mercy without fear. I left Germany as a soldier of a regime that promised glory through conquest. I returned as a man who had seen a different kind of power. Factories that never slept, fields that fed millions, and enemies who treated us with dignity. The war ended, but the question remained, burning in the dark like a dying candle. If our enemies could build such a world through freedom, what excuse did we have for everything we had done in the name of strength?